My name is Dave Tran, and this is Lex TV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. We have Dr. Laurence Tham, co-founder and co-host of The Wellness Guys and founder of Drive Your Practice, calling from Sydney, Australia. He graduated from CMCC in 2002. Dr. Laurence, welcome to Lex TV.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited, and I heard a lot of great things about this show, and looking forward to be part of it.
Yeah, so let's get on to it. First question, how did you get started in chiropractic?
My story goes back, I guess, when I was in university. I went to University of Waterloo. Basically, I studied something called kinesiology, which is basically human kinetics. And I got interested in, looking at the human body, and I wanted to become a physio, actually. I went from high school and didn't get in because my marks weren't up to the standard of 94, 95 percentile in high school that you had to get in from high school. So I ended up with what most people don't do when they can't get into physio, they go into kinesiology. And so I got in there, and I don't know, I actually studied something called ergonomics, which is the study of human, just the way human safety, health and safety stuff, and looking at that. And I recognized that there was a plateau. I recognized that going to corporations, I worked for General Electric, I worked for Bombardier, where they built planes and stuff. And I worked in those during my summer jobs and also co-op programs at the University of Waterloo. And I recognized that, as an employee, I get to only cap my salary based on what, the corporations are. And I found that it just wasn't for me. I wanted to be the one who dictate my own life. I want to be the one who says that, I want to be the one who can say, if I want to work more and earn more, I can do that, rather than telling me a corporation that earns a certain salary. And that's sort of where I started looking to other things. And I've always wanted to become a doctor, but I never wanted to become a medical doctor. I grew up in a family of, my mom was a foot reflexologist, so I was into the alternative health stuff. And so I looked into other things. Chiropractic sort of came, I looked into it, and I had chiropractic adjustments since I was through high school when I was a swimmer. And I always thought, let's give this a go. And I thought, maybe I'll go see a chiropractor and just follow them for a while. And the chiropractor I actually followed was very mechanistic chiropractor. He graduated from National. I don't even know if National exists anymore in Chicago, but it's changed names, I think, since then. But so I learned a lot about chiropractic from him, and so I really wanted to help people in sports. I had a passion in sport, and I wanted to become a doctor. And so those are the two things. And then I started applying for CMCC, and I got in. Which is great because it was pretty tough to get in there. I actually applied to NYCC as well, and National, and LACC, just to kind of cover all my bases. But once I got in, I recognized that there was actually something more. I was blown away that after about my first year, you get through first year, you start to recognize that there's so much, you got to study. Once you get past that first year, the second year was more about learning from different seminars. And I remember attending a seminar, and it was with, it was on pediatrics. And I never even realized, the understanding of what chiropractic could offer. That's when I started understanding there's the principles and the philosophy around chiropractic and what it could offer beyond just sports and athletes. And so that's when I kind of dived in and started to recognize that maybe I should attend more of these seminars. And so the next 3 years, I started traveling around all of North America and Canada and the United States, and attending as many seminars as I could to learn from different variety of practices and the different facets of chiropractic, and really just kind of get an understanding of what is chiropractic, what is it about me, and how does it flew with me. Because I think it's important that we recognize that chiropractic suits you as a person, rather than you trying to fit into a particular model. You got to take a look at all the models out there, and then kind of go, which one fits with me and how I want to operate as a practitioner. So that's what I did. I sort of explored, and then recognized that, there's so much more to chiropractic than I initially thought. And that's sort of my journey through chiropractic, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah. Like you mentioned that you traveled a lot to a lot of different seminars, and I mean, even now, being in practice, and as well as coaching a lot of chiropractors. I mean, you're all over the world, which is awesome. I think it's great. I'm sure I'm sure you have a lot of chiropractors that ask you a bunch of questions. So what would you say is like the number one question that chiropractors always ask you?
It's been great. It's been a great journey for me. That I get to travel around the world. I get to speak around the world, which is fantastic. And you know what? The number one question that gets asked all the time, and through whether I'm in England or in Australia or in the States or in Canada, the number one question is, how do I how do I get more new patients? You know, that's the number one question that most chiropractors ask. I think it's the wrong question to ask. To be honest with you, it's just the wrong question to ask, because the thing is that, you know, asking a question of how you get new patients, is that you're desperate. It comes from desperation. You're basically coming from like, how do I fill the funnel on the top? But that's not where most people's problems are. Most people's problems are actually how to actually take care of the client. How do I convert them? And then how do I actually deliver on the promise that I told them? Because to be honest with you, sure, at the beginning when you're getting started, you need new patients, and I get that. You definitely need to start, you know, working towards that. If you students, first thing you do, you got to go out there and you got to put your head down and actually go get some new clients. But one of the key fundamental things that you need to work on is actually, how do I actually take this client now, this new patient that's sitting in front of me? How do I actually get them to understand what I'm trying to deliver? And based on the philosophy and the principles that, you know, my practice is offering, and then how do I actually get them to convert to understand that chiropractic is more than just a quick fix? Because that's the perception that's out there, right? But that's not the perception that's in here. So therefore, you're gonna have to somehow master that skill of communication and figure out how to actually convert them into understanding about chiropractic. But you don't have to do it in one go. Like, it's not just like initial consultation, report finding, and then boom, that's it. Like, it's a process. You know, some people take, you know, a couple of adjustments, some people take months, and some people take years, and some people just never get it. I think we just got to be clear on that. And if you have a better understanding on that, then it's going to be so much easier for you to be okay with that. And your job is to basically tell the story, but in a way that matches to what they want and what they desire, and then slowly guide them towards the future that they're looking for. So that's the number one question, but I think it's asking the better question to ask is, you know, who am I as a chiropractor? What do I have to offer to the people? And then what are their biggest needs? Like, what is the patient's biggest needs and frustrations are? And then somehow figure a way to match those two conversations. So actually, let me summarize this in quickly. There's something what I call the power versus force communication. Yeah. And the power versus force is this. There's 4 forces that dictates the client, right? The 4 forces is the fears, the frustration, right? What are the fears and frustration of the client? And then the 2 other things is basically what's their want and desire. If you can dive deep into their fears, frustration, wants, and desire, those are the 4 forces, then you're going to be able to have a better understanding of what that client needs and wants. Once you're able to do that, then you got to use your 4 powers, right? Your 4 powers is, you know, what are your knowledge? What are your skill sets? What can you bring to the table, right? What are some of the you know, the product? What's the product behind that? What do you have to offer in your product to be able to match those fears, frustrations, and wants and desire, right? And what's the process, right? What's the process that you're going to be able to deliver so that you can actually match those fear, frustrations, wants, and desire? And so if you can actually sort of create that, then you're going to be able to match the power. Take your 4 powers and you take their 4 forces and you match them together, and that's when you're going to be able to have a communication style that's actually going to help them translate chiropractic in their lifestyle.
Oh, that's huge. I'm gonna have to re-listen to that one for sure on the playback. That's awesome. You know, like one of the things that you mentioned the very beginning of that is that, you know, no matter where you go across the world, everybody has the same questions. So what would be your greatest advice for chiropractic students?
Okay, so this is going to be specific for students, right? My greatest advice for students, no matter whether you're in your first year or your last try or wherever you're at, the biggest thing I would suggest for you is that you got to go out and explore. Discover who you are. Like, it's the best time in the world to be able to go out and explore, go to as many seminars as you can. I mean, Dave, I heard your story. You know, it's one of those things that you traveled all around America, and you basically attended every seminar that you could possibly get your hands on. And that's exactly what I did, right? It's about going and go to, some people say, well, I haven't studied enough techniques. I haven't even got my diversified yet. So why should I go learn Thompson or Activator or whatever? I say go learn them all, because why not? You might as well go learn them all and then figure out what matches you. Because I mean, we're all different. We're all come from different, different backgrounds. We got different sizes. I mean, I don't know how tall you are. We never met you, Dave, in person, but like I'm a pretty small stature kind of guy, right? Us Asian people, we're not tall, like 6'5" or anything, and we don't have the weight behind us. So therefore, we gotta find the techniques that help us develop a lot of speed, or, you know, light adjustments, or whatever it is. You got to match your body. And one of the key things that I've learned when I first went into practice, that I try to, because I was an associate for the first couple of years, I actually try to match what my principal chiropractor was doing. And unfortunately, what I did was I wore down my body really quickly because I was trying to do what he was doing. And I basically burnt out my body physically, and I still suffer from that now, because of the mismanagement of my physical skill. I wasn't playing the long game. So I think it's really important that you start to recognize you're playing the long game here. You're not just going to go in there and you're not a professional athlete. You only got a career span of you're not an NFL player where you got a career span of maybe 3 to 5 years, right? You got a career span up to 90 years old if you really wanted to. So I think you got to make sure you do everything right to prepare yourself. As when we're young as students, so what's ended happening is that we go out there and we're thinking, yeah, let's go out there and just start heavy hitting and just start doing all these adjustments. But you forget that, if you're going to play the long game, you can't be doing that day in, day out for, 10, 20, 30 years without having some wear and tear on your body. So protect your body. I think it's really important to study as much as you can outside of the practice. I probably spent more time, and if any professors are listening to this, I hope you understand, but I think it's important that you study more outside of practice, your college, than it is to study just college. I think chiropractic colleges are fantastic. They give you a great fundamental basis of passing your exams. Okay, so passing your boards is a great tool to do that, so you can get your degree to give you a license to practice. Now, what makes you become a great chiropractor is you start studying all the people that are around you that can offer. Now, this is dating myself now. I graduated in 2002, right? So I'm 40 years old now. So which means that, I grew up in an age where there was a time when there was no internet, right? There was no podcast, there's no YouTube videos, or there's none of this stuff. So what you have provided for your students, which is fantastic. But we had to learn by buying tapes. Remember those cassette tapes? I had cassette tapes. That's what I had to buy. But now you get this for free. I run podcasts, you run these shows. You get this for free, where we used to have to pay for it. Now you have no excuse as a student now not to learn as much as you can without even leaving your own, house if you don't want to. But I suggest you go out there and you meet some people, because you're going to meet certain people and you're going to recognize that, I really gravitate to this person, or you meet some people because you might hear them on a tape you heard them on a podcast and you go, wow, they sound great. But you meet them in person and go, you know what? I don't really get that good energy about them when I meet them in person. That's fine. You're not meant to like everybody. I think it's important that you start to explore different people, different chiropractors. I think it's really important, as well as I'm sorry, giving a whole bunch of advice, but I think one of the key advice too as well is to don't get so insulated with chiropractic. I think you learn as much as you can within chiropractic, but sooner or later you're going to have to go outside of this profession, because what ends up happening, I believe anyways, in this profession, we start to learn from each other all the time, and then we're just basically spewing back this same thing back and forth. And I think it's important to start looking outside of this profession and start learning from other business leaders, and then taking some of those ideas and let's upgrade this profession. And the way to upgrade is on people like you guys. You guys are in the internet age, where you guys are able to absorb the information a lot faster than someone like myself or anybody older than myself. And so what that means, you're going to be able to transform and direct this profession in the direction that we want it to be, which is basically an upgrade. And I think that we need to do that, because if we continue to start learning stuff from the 80s and the 90s and even the 2000s, over and over again, we're just going to repeat the same mistakes. And I think we need an upgrade. And what you're doing here in terms of for our students, I think is fantastic. And you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for you to become a chiropractor, right? A DC, before you do anything. Dave, you started the show when you were a student, right? And so therefore you didn't have to wait. You didn't have someone to knight you and go, Dave, because you're so good at this, you should go and start this, right? I'll give you permission. No, you just asked for you didn't ask for permission. You just you went and did it. Same thing with the podcast that I did. I just said, one day I go, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to start a podcast. Well, no one gave me a right. No one gave me a license to do that. So which means that you have as a power of all the technology that's available, and all of it's mostly free. Yeah. Really all you need is maybe a microphone or something you need to buy to kind of make it a bit more professional, but that's about it. And you can actually start your own television show. You can start your own, radio show if you want to. All of that is available to you. I think for you students, it's about think outside the box and going, how can you start creating a name for yourself, a brand for yourself before you even graduate? And I think the faster you act on it, the better you will be for the future, and people will be attracted to you because you learn the mistakes at the beginning. And by the time you graduate, guess what? You're already 10, 20 steps ahead of your other classmates. And that's what's going to make you successful more so than anybody else.
Huge advice. It is going to be something I'll definitely be re-listening to you as well. I mean, both parts for sure. Dr. Laurence, thank you so much for sharing your light with us today. If you want some more information or want to connect with Dr. Laurence directly, check out the links below. And every week I'll be uploading a new interview with another leader in the chiropractic profession. If you like this video, please share it with your classmates and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. My name is Dave Train, and this was Lex TV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic students. Thanks again.